Hello, good afternoon and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of rapid fire racing action in the one and only League Zero Inca Salsa Formula Series Season 12, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and as powered by Inca Salsa. Today, we take a look back at all the racing action as if it were live from round 5 of 6, the penultimate round of the championship campaign. We're here in the United Kingdom at the one and only home of British motor racing, known as Silverstone, and the Grand Prix circuit welcomes our drivers. Spanning 3.66 miles in length, it is a circuit that's gone through multiple iterations over the course of its extensive history, starting off as the former site, a private site if you will, for what was a former Royal Air Force base converted into a private racing scene, and very rapidly evolving into the international circuit that is known as today. Throughout that history, it has seen a wide multitude of motor racing series take to its venerable tarmac, and indeed, whether it be domestic or international, there's no type of formula that hasn't raced here, it could be argued, and that's why it's considered to be the ultimate home of motor racing in the United Kingdom. The site every year of Formula One's Grand Prix, and indeed recently decorated with Lewis Hamilton becoming the most successful Formula One driver to race around here, as the drivers get ready to go racing today in their Super Formula SF23 machines. Well, it won't be too dissimilar from Formula One, because at the heart of this circuit is an 18-corner layout, which is all about medium to high-speed apexes, quick direction changes, and long extended straights. Therefore, the aim of the game is going to be maximising downforce and carrying as much speed as possible from corner to corner in order to achieve victory. For every mile per hour lost in a corner apex could be a mile per hour which is going to lead to a potential vulnerability when it comes to the next braking zone, and that's where the battles will play out, because add to it the wide open racing service this road circuit offers, and it is a circuit where overtakes can come thick as fast just as much as the racing action is going to be absolutely intense on our drivers from start to finish in each and every race. But as we welcome you all to this broadcast from circuit side, this post-round broadcast, what does that mean for the uninitiated? Well, this broadcast is live. You're tuning in right now to a live broadcast, but the racing action you're seeing in the background is not live. It occurred earlier this week on Thursday the 12th of December, but here today on what is Sunday the 15th of December, we're bringing it to you as if it were live for your viewing pleasure. You can be tuning in right now via one of two media platforms, and that's either via YouTube at youtube.com and search for TX141TX, or Paul Walsh on YouTube, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube, or you could be tuning in via Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator, because you may be wondering who is Paul Walsh, who is TX141. Well, it is I. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all your racing action this season, as this season continues to yearn and turn the story of what's been an absolutely fascinating conundrum for our drivers to settle in terms of who will be our champions. And here today, we could be setting the team's championship, albeit it looks to be a formality, and more on that shortly. But we're going to be seeing come the end of today, where it's going to be a two-driver battle for the Drivers' Championship going into our season finale in Interlagos in a week's time, or whether it could be more wide open than that, depending on which way the results go. But going on to our schedule for today, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, as we can see very shortly. And in fact, our times there being 3 hours a bit delayed, and they're going to be corrected very shortly. But as we can see, in what will be just under in the best part of 12 minutes time, we are going to be going into our qualifying session, not in 3 hours time, we should correct ourselves there, and the times are being corrected immediately, but in just under 12 minutes time, we'll be going into our qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration, all the drivers out on the circuit looking to give it everything, while they make their way to the grid for the first of our 2 races. We'll open up the racing with our sprint race, 8 laps in duration at 5:30 today, and after that, we then be making our way back to the grid, albeit without the pause for what will be a 5-minute break, and that will be the feature race, 24 laps in duration, 3 times the length for the sprint, and that'll be at 10 to 6 this evening. There's plenty of racing action to be witnessed here at the Silverstone circuit, and well, we look forward to seeing how it all plays out as our drivers get themselves ready to race once again. But as they do, let's take a look at the championship calendar so far and what we've still got lying in wait. Because as we can see, we're now into round number 5. After today, we make our way to Brazil for the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, also known as Interlagos, on the 19th of December 2024. But on the way to here, we start off all the way back on the 7th of November at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, opening up with a bang in Belgium, and after that we made our way to neighbouring Italy for the Autodromo Nacional Monza. The Temple of Speed in Italy, and arguably the fastest circuit on mainland Europe on the 14th of November, where it heard no quarter when it came to our drivers battling each other from lights out to checker flag, and then we made our way to Austria for the Red Bull Ring, with the Grand Prix out of the circuit on the 21st of November, delivering some absolute spectacles when it came to flat-out racing as well as on strategy. But then we had our Thanksgiving break week, and we returned last time out on the 5th of December at the Long Beach Street Circuit in the United States of America, and the California City welcomed our drivers as they roared their way down the palm tree-lined waterfront and past major landmarks including the aquarium, and indeed our drivers there absolutely enjoying the racing on the street circuit, and those walls loomed very large. But it's our only street circuit on the calendar, and we're back today to a more traditional open road racing circuit, and we look forward to seeing what our drivers are able to whip up at the home of British motorsport here at Silverstone. But as we make our way into this round, let's give you an update on the Drivers' Championship and the Team's Championship standings of the 4 rounds of racing. And we can see here, after 4 rounds, Jaden Callaway has returned to the top of the standings. The defending champion from season 11 has finally found his way to the top, albeit he's done it the long way round compared to his teammate Adam Merchant, who now sits 5 points behind. It really was the Jaden Callaway show at the Long Beach circuit last week, in the fact he picked up both victories, with Adam Merchant giving hot pursuit throughout, but Callaway now will be thinking all about trying to make it back-to-back victories once again here today in order to try and extend his advantage going to Interlagos. And the reason we say it could be a 2-driver battle for the championship crown in a week's time is look at the gap between Merchant in P2 and Elliott Court in P3. The gap currently standing at 28 points, and whilst it's not impossible for Court to be in the championship fight right now, should results not go his way today and he'll need to try and take some major points off of Callaway and Merchant in turn, he may find himself being eliminated from being mathematically eligible to fight for the championship crown. The same conundrum faces Philippe Sarkis, currently in P4, a further 5 points behind Court, and indeed he could be eliminated from being eligible for taking the season 12 crown if results don't come his way, and he's the man who really needs to get the move on to chase down a potential victory. And you'll notice there, yet to take a win this season compared to Court, Merchant and Callaway, and he'd love to take that first win of the season, no doubt about it. After we incorrectly stated he was chasing his first ever podium of the season last time out at Long Beach, in fact he picked up back-to-back podiums at Monza in round number 2, and well, he was chasing down even more podiums to add to his collection last time out, and could he add some podiums and perhaps even his first win of the season as of this round. We look forward to seeing what he's able to do. Outside the top 4, Antonio Bianchi sits on 58 points in P5. And 12 behind him is Raymond Aguilar, who we haven't seen on the grid for the last couple of rounds, but the 2 teammates there for Avanti Autosport running in a confident what is P5, P6 combination. And Shahi Zahir only behind Aguilar based on result countback after a great set of performances at Long Beach have seen him move his way up into P7. Nick Peterson, Cameron Dance and Leo Delmar complete the top 10, and behind the Frenchman by 7 points is Michael Fairchild, best of SP11, only ahead of Gail Rolls based on result countback arguably, but Rolls also making progress after a great result in what was the feature feature race at Long Beach. James Turnbull sits in P13 on 25 points, 2 ahead of Jace Mayer, with Ryan Thibault just behind on result countback. And then we do have in P16 Richard Lai, who's fallen down there through an absence in previous rounds. And then it's Christian Jasper, followed by Arturo Mayorga, Gabriel Hopp, and Alex Penn, who complete your top 20. Outside the top 20, we've got Christian Gritzko, P21, joint on points for Eric Guillory, and then Gareth McAllister, Xavier Zainab, Robert Nobles, Carl Deckard, who made his debut last time out, and then also Jeremy Barber, David Iezzi, Jacob Bramley, who made his debut at Long Beach, Jeff Groff, who was also a debutant on the grid at Long Beach, and Chase Small complete the championship standings. But coming on to our team's championship, and here we can see it leading the way, Squid Gang Racing by 95 points. Now on paper, they can be mathematically brought back into a championship fight today versus Kraken Racing and Avanti Autosport. However, the key point being here is it's theoretical, and all Squid Gang Racing need to do is take some solid points in our first race of the day, and they will have done enough to put the team's championship to bed and be successful defenders of the crown. Kraken Racing, meanwhile, sit in P2, and they're in a fight now for the runner-up spot, arguably with Avanti Autosport. The two teams separated by only 12 points there, and could we see a swapping back and forth, given they swapped places since last time? Blue Passport Motorsport, meanwhile, sit in P4 on 75 points, and they're trying to stay one step ahead of Zucchi Racing, with Rodent Racing ahead of Rodent Jr. for now by 6 points, and it's Rabbit Racing, BMR, and Ghost Squadra who wrap up the team's championship stands, with Ghost Squadra making their debut as of last round. But we come from our championship stands into our circuit for today. It is the Grand Prix layout, the modern Grand Prix layout, given it's gone through multiple iterations of the Silverstone circuit. Located near the village of Silverstone in the Northamptonshire ceremonial county of England, the United Kingdom. Well, firstly, thank you to iRacing for their absolutely brilliant circuit maps that bring the circuits to life alongside their absolutely superb simulator. And this circuit is a highly flat circuit, not just because you're looking at a two-dimensional image, but given it's based on the former site of a Royal Air Force base, which had 3 runways, I do believe, although I may be confusing my history here for Snetterton. In fact, I think I am, with this circuit having 2 runways, and Snetterton in the county of what is Norwich, or in the region of Norwich, having 3 runways by comparison. Well, the key theme being here, not to digress, is that it's going to be a relatively flat circuit, and there's very little elevation change here. But whilst there is an absence of elevation change, what it's made up for is in the fact that this circuit is highly aggressive when it comes to average lap speed. Holding the highest average lap speed, excluding Thruxton circuit in the United Kingdom, it is a circuit whereby the medium and high-speed corner apexes come very quickly, and on top of that as well, you've got multiple extended straights, and when you add it all together, it is a circuit that is absolutely relentless on the senses, and means that our drivers will need to maximise the usage of the downforce available in their cars, as well as tyre grip. As they roll their way across the start-finish line, coming out of Club Corner to start on a new lap, they'll make their way flat out through Abbey Curve at turn 1 and into Farm at 2, before they come hard on the brakes into the Village Hairpin at turn number 3. Then they'll go into another hairpin out of the right-hand right-angle corner into the loop at turn 4, before powering their way through Aintree and onto the first of the long straights of Wellington. As they come down the Wellington straight, it'll then be into the Brooklands Luffield combination, the snaking left into right sequence, before they return to the throttle, coming in towards Woodcock Corner at turn number 8, the old start finish straight, and roll the way in towards Cops Bend. A corner where you can go too wide, but it can be difficult in the best of times, but to get it right through Cops, and you carry all the speed up towards the Maggots into Beckett's combination at turns 10 through to 13, where it's a winding S's sequence, which will see our drivers gradually reduce their overall speed, and as they exit out of Beckett, you'll need to return to full throttle as soon as possible, and flat out run down through Chapel and the Hanger straight up towards Stowe at turn 15. Stowe Corner, infamous perhaps mostly for the Nigel Mansell dummy on Nelson Piquet all those years ago. We might see a few dummies today with regards to battling moves into turn 15, but as they come out of the right-hander, it'll be down the Vale and in towards turn 16 and 17. The chicane there, setting up the run into Club Corner, which we flat out throughout as long as they don't clip the apex curb, and they'll complete lap only to do it all over again. To give you a quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing, setup-wise, drivers will run a fixed setup as provided by the League Zero administration team, and in general for our races, they will begin via a standing start, and a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty in a given race if they accumulate 13 or more instant points. In our sprint race, the grid order shall be set based on results of the preceding qualifying session, that's a given, and the race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 20 minutes, and we're expecting those 8 laps to go very rapidly indeed. In the feature race, it's similar, albeit the grid order shall be set based on results of the sprint race, albeit we take the results of the sprint race and we invert the top 5 finishing positions. So what does that mean in layman's terms? It means the winner of the sprint race, they start P5 on the grid for the purpose of the feature race, and we continue our way down to P5 where the 5th place finisher in the sprint race starts on pole for the purpose of the feature. But if you finish 6th place or lower, that's exactly where you start on the feature race based on where you finished on the sprint. And the race shall conclude after either 45 minutes or the allotted lap amount of 24 laps. We're expecting the laps to come first. And we should remind you there's a mandatory pit stop in which drivers must change tyres in the feature race. And the pit stop may be taken on or after lap 3, but not on the final 3 laps of the race. So therefore, if a driver comes into the pit on lap 22 or later, they will have failed to meet the mandatory pit stop requirement and they'll be subject to a very hefty post-race penalty. They must serve their pit stop by the end of lap 21. Alternatively, they can serve it as early as what is going to be lap number 3, so there'll be quite a bit of strategic variety. But that's enough theory crafting and all the rules and regulations. We're here for the racing, and as we return to circuit side, we do look to one of our 2 leading championship contenders at this time, and this is none other than Adam Merchant for Squid Gang Racing as he peels off into the pit lane, and the number 41 driver decides to put in a few more laps compared to his teammate and championship rival Jaden Callaway as he makes his way on down pit lane entry there, and well, it could not be close between the 2 of them. Good friends of the circuit, but I can imagine the rivalry really building up now and getting ready to boil over, and well, we look forward to seeing how the 2 will go toe-to-toe today. But the man who's going to look to try and put himself between both of them will be this man, number 23, and on home soil today, Blue Passport Motorsports Elliot Cords, and we look forward to seeing whether he is going to be able to pull off a home GP victory. And well, there is a bit of a curse regarding Silverstone and British drivers winning at the circuit, and if you look at many an international series, whether it be Formula 1 or other series, it's normally a circuit whereby British drivers don't always do too well, the main exception being Lewis Hamilton perhaps, and well, Nigel Mansell's picked up a win or 2. But if you look to the likes of Jenson Button, had many opportunities to try and win a race at Silverstone, but never quite pulled it off in his Formula 1 championship career, and indeed his wider motorsporting career. And it is a circuit whereby British drivers do seem to have a bit of bad luck or really have to go up against it in order to bring things home at their home circuit. But as Court comes into the pit lane, we're hoping he's perhaps not going to have as much misfortune as other drivers in reality, but then again, we'll have to wait and see what exactly happens. He comes on down, but as he does so, we also look to the Frenchman here, Leo Delmar, the Rodent Junior driver, who's looking quite fast, it must be said here, in what is this final warm-up session. And even though our time and tell there does seem to be a little bit glitched with regards to laps that our drivers are delivering, well, I can assure you right now as they're making their way on through, everybody absolutely set and ready to go here for what will be our first qualifying session, and indeed our only qualifying session of the day, and we're on the way into the race in due course. And Delmar looking quite quick and very tasteful, given the fact that he came off a bit of difficulty last time out of Long Beach, and he'll be hoping that the absence of walls today and a much more open circuit will cater for what's been a strong driving style and a very consistent driving style we've seen from the number 21 driver, but fortune just has not favoured him. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the final practice warm-up session is complete. It's time for us to go to qualifying, and we will be right back. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is go, go, go for 15 minutes of qualifying, but who will be on pole by the end of it? That is the big question that everybody is asking as our drivers begin to make their way out of the pit lane here. And well, 15 minutes sounds like a long time, but an average lap time around here of what is the best part of 1 minute and 36 seconds, those laps are going to trickle away, and indeed time is going to trickle away like nobody's business. But what do you need to do here in order to get a good qualifying lap in at Silverstone? Well, you've got to be fully committed on the lap, and also you've got to burn that fuel out of the car as quickly as possible, because the thing about this circuit is it's all about carrying speed into and out of the corners. Your average apex speed is absolutely pivotal here, because drivers will be running a high amount of wing on the fixed setup, whether it be the front wing and the rear wing. They need the downforce in order to be able to carry the speed. But the problem is, when you go onto the straights around here, as a result, if you're running a lot of downforce, you naturally lack the ability to accelerate up to your top speed as quickly if you're running less downforce, because the idea of downforce for the uninitiated is it creates a drag factor on the car, and that drag factor pushes the car down into the tarmac, and that's where you're able to carry more speed through the corners, but you suffer in acceleration on the straights. So therefore you want to carry more speed on corner exit, and that way you're able to get an even higher top speed come the end of a straight section, such as making his way down the hanger straight here as Michael Fairchild, to give you an example, as he exits the Beckett and Chapel combination and now heads his way up towards Stowe. But to do that and carry all that speed, you've got to be confident. You've got to know exactly how wide the circuit is, and you've got to know how much grip is in the tyre, how much heat you've got in the tyre, and on top of that, if you can take all the fuel out of the car, and these fixed setups do not allow drivers to put fuel in and out of the car, they must go out there with a defined amount of fuel and burn it out the car in this qualifying session to achieve those optimum laps. Where you put it all together, less fuel, less weight, more speed you can carry and build up to, and if you can carry more speed through the corners naturally and use all the road racing surface, you are going to be on for an absolute king-size lap. But then again, it sounds so easy when we articulate in words like that over the course of what's the opening 2 minutes, the outlight period of the qualifying session. But how easy is it going to be when the drivers actually get out there? Well, that is the challenge that confronts them. And as they make the way around, well, speaking of a challenge, we've got a new challenger on the grid today. Oh my goodness, and I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but it looks as though might have been a bit of an instant. I think that might have been Leo Del Mar looking backwards going out of club corner and Brzezowski running wide. And we need to introduce the new driver to the grid today, American Lee Privateer, and I believe he's racing for the Privateer outfit of F&G Racing, which if F&G stands for what I think it potentially does as a military slang term, I'm not allowed to repeat it live on air, but those of you who know, I do ask as well you don't potentially put it in the respective chats in order not to get this stream 18 rated. But what I can tell you is we welcome to the grid Frankie Brzezowski, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do in the number 57. And well, the best of luck to him today here at the Silverstone circuit. But he makes his way out of turn at number 8 and upwards towards Cots Bend at 9, going by Woodcott now onto the old start-finish straight. And roaring its way in towards the right-hander. We look forward to seeing exactly where his lap times will match up and where he'll find himself mixing things up in amongst the field. As he comes on down, meanwhile we look a little bit further up the road into Maggots and Beckett's goes at Gabriel Hopp, the Brazilian driver in the number 35, and well, having made his debut last time out, and I think in fact he might be as part of the same team as Brzezowski because they're both running the Privateer livery of F&G Racing with different coloration styles, but albeit I think for this season they're running as Privateers, but perhaps next season if they do come back for season 13, which we'd love to see, F&G Racing potentially put in a full official team's entry and see how they're able to shake things up in the team's championship, even if they're competing to be inside the top 5. It's been a very tight team's championship outside of Squid Game Racing, really leading the way since round number 3 of the season. But those first laps now coming in, and Hop goes P8 there with 38.985. We've got a lot of time left out there, given the fact that our fastest lap so far from Jaden Calloway has been a 37.378. And well, the man who's right now trying to get as close as possible is Shahi Zuhair, the Sri Lankan driver for Kraken Racing. And well, he's right now the best part of 7.5 tenths off of Calloway's overall pole time. But then again, it may just be he hasn't been able to find it at the moment. And where is Calloway out on circuit? Well, here he is, and the number 1 driver absolutely monstrous out there right now. And it looks like Adam Merchant's behind him, and I wonder whether Squid Game Racing are once again using their team tactic of having their drivers go out on circuit together, get some clear track, and swap them around from lap to lap. So one driver will act as the slipstream car or the pace car, and the other driver, meanwhile, will tuck in behind and try and deliver the lap with the maximum possible tow. And then they might do a cool-down lap, and they swap their positions, because you can see in the rear of the picture, that is Adam Merchant, and we now focus on here for Squid Game Racing, making his way in towards Stowe Corner. And he's a bit far back to Calloway. He's the best part there, I would say, of about 1.5 seconds distance, albeit I haven't quite got the data available to me, but given that gap, you would argue on paper at least that Merchant, if he started off this lap with the intention of picking up a distant tow, he's a bit too distant for it, as Calloway goes even faster, 37.069. Merchant, meanwhile, 37.190, and you have to ask the question, if he was a bit closer to pick up a tow, how much would he gain? Now, that is a good question in the fact that around here, as Philippe Sarkic goes P3 on a 37.634, so that's a good lap there from the Brazilian driver, albeit off camera, but absolutely delivering. And, well, Merchant right now, you would imagine if he picked up the tow over the course of the second half of the lap and he was able to offset it through Maggots into Beckett, he might have been a tenth or two faster. It's worth about 0.3 of a second if you pick up the tow over the full distance of the lap, because keep in mind as well, dirty air over the front of the Super Formula SF23 cars doesn't always help them. And as he makes his way on out, well, we'll have to wait and see what the 41 driver can do here, given the fact that Calloway right now seems to be the man who's in control of qualifying. Once all this is going on, Hop, meanwhile, has moved up to P3, and he's only 2 tenths off the overall pole time. So, well, I'm being made to mark my words early here, and it's a very tight qualifying session so far. We've still got just under 10 minutes of it to go. And for those of you wondering, why is Elliot Cord listed as not going out on circuit at the bottom of the time down the left-hand side of your screen? Well, he is serving a qualifying ban, and therefore he will have a pit lane start, as we see a lot of gravel there coming off the front tyres of Hop's car. I think somebody's gone wide there coming out of what is Luffield Bend, and all the gravel being displaced onto the circuit. Therefore, the driver's having to shrug that off, and Hop goes wide, and I think that's the effect of the dirty tyre. tyres, albeit they won't be too much dirty for too much longer, but Hot there definitely having a bit of a scary moment and understeering wide at Copse Bend, and he won't want to do that again in a hurry. But coming back to my main point with regards to Cord, he is serving a qualifying ban and therefore will have a pit lane start for the sprint race today, and that's due to an incident, a collision that he was deemed to have caused in lap 1 of the feature race at Long Beach last time out, and therefore Court's got all the hard work to do today if he wants to stay in P3 in the Drivers' Championship and keep the championship open in terms of his aspirations to try and take the crown away from Jaden Callaway or Adam Merchant. And therefore for Philippe Sarkis, you would imagine here the Kraken Racing driver will feel as though he's right now got to seize on the opportunity to potentially get himself ahead of Court and do so before he heads to his home territory in a week's time for that season finale. But as he comes on through, I had a brilliant chat with Philippe after the racing last time out at Long Beach, and that's where he did point out to me of the fact that whilst they kept saying on the broadcast he was chasing his first ever podiums, he picked up those podiums at Monza in both of the races. Lovely chap to talk to be fair. They've got all the time in the world, and well, I can tell you one thing, he's definitely made great friends on the circuit in terms of the battles he enjoyed, and he's making friends off the circuit as well in the Inca Salsa Formula Series, and it wouldn't quite be the same without him as he roars his way out of turn turn at number 7 there. Still a bit of gravel on the outside curbing. You'll notice how close he gets to the wall there coming through Woodcock Corner, trying to cut it off as much as possible. And as we say hello to Shahi Zahair in the YouTube chat, who says, let's go indeed, Shahi. Well, meanwhile, it's about time we went on board with one of our drives for a flying lap, albeit we still got a bit of time before anybody comes around to the start-finish line. So therefore, we'll have to pause that thought for a brief moment as we look to Gareth McAllister. And we can see there's some dirt coming off the left-hand side tyres for the Rabbit Racing driver as he makes his way on through. The Australian driver right now down in P17. And looking at those lap times, Adam Merchant's into the pit lane, so he's decided to come on in. But meanwhile, Jaden Callaway stays out there, and we jump aboard with our championship leader as he takes us around for a flying lap at Silverstone. He's making his way into turn at number 1, 6th gear all the way flat out there as he comes through Abbey, then farm curve, and now over to the left-hand side and hard on the brakes there at 75 metres in towards turn 3. Down to 2nd gear, and now he makes his way in towards the loop hairpin at turn number 4. 3rd gear on through to make sure he doesn't get too much wheel spin as he's now flat out coming onto the Wellington straight, and it's all about just now keeping it over to the right-hand side from a very tricky corner at Brooklands here, and he'll look to his right-hand side for his brake mark, and it will be at the 50 board, and as he brakes way down, trail braking down to 3rd gear at the apex and keeping the car nice and tight here for Luffield. And you'll notice there it seems as though the circuit rises a little bit towards the apex and then drops away, and that is exactly what Callaway's trying to offset by being so tight to the apex curve. It's the natural off-camber nature of the corner, and therefore the understeer that can be invoked. We haven't got time to talk about that as he heads his way into Cops Corner, completely committed here, a slight lift of the throttle on turning, and then back to full throttle as he abuses the downforce there, maximising out his speed as much as possible, 172 miles an hour as he makes his way Maggots into Beckett's here and winding his way on through the right-left-right combination as he comes out of turn number 13 onto the kink of 14 here at Chapel, and that's flat out all the way down. Has Callaway done enough here? We'll find out towards the end of the lap as he heads on down, and as he does in fact decides to back off. Callaway's not happy with this lap as he heads up towards Stowe, so decides to reset and go one more time shortly as he comes towards the end of that aborted lap. And will he peel into the pits here thinking that there might be more to do, as Merchant is currently the fastest driver out on a 35.821, but my gut feeling says that might be because he's triggered the pit line entry when he came to the end of a lap, and therefore that lap may not stand because these laps will be updated after qualifying is complete. There is a little bit of an error with regards to the timing line here at Silverstone, given the fact the timing line and the pit entry line are not quite aligned, and therefore it does mean you sometimes get very erroneous fastest laps suddenly appear for each and every driver when they come into the pit lane. But meanwhile, whilst all that's playing out, and we'll wait to see how the statistics are updated, well, there's a car going very slowly there on what is the inside run into the turn 16-17 chicane. Couldn't quite discern who that was, but I can tell you that Zuhair right now, currently in P4, is looking for a bit more time out there. He doesn't quite improve this time around. 5 minutes left on the clock and still throwing everything at this as he dares to dream to do so. And we can imagine he's getting his head down as much as possible. And what I can definitely tell you at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to that lap that Adam Merchant is listed to have set, that is not a valid lap of 35.821. We can't remove it in the time tower there, but it's not a valid lap. And currently, provisional pole does sit with Callaway at this time, albeit by a very slender margin at the moment. And that margin being only what is 2 attempts. It doesn't sound like, well, in fact, it sounds like a lot, but in reality it's not, given how hard these two are pushing each other. And well, meanwhile, we look to Antonio Bianchi, the Avanti Autosport driver in number 17, making his way out of Cops Bend and onwards towards what will be Maggots into Beckett's he goes. And well, as he keeps his head down here in the number 17, he'll be thinking there's more time out there. He's currently P7. He is only 4 thousandths of a Sarkishi's time in P, what is is at P6, so therefore it is very close to be inside that top 5, to be on the front 3 rows of the grid. And look at that, from Hop all the way through to Bianchi, it is only 1.5 tenths. You could not ask for a closer qualifying session between these drivers at this time, and well, they're absolutely all digging in here and throwing everything at this as Callaway improves to 36.769. So that means the provisional pole time now has actually been improved by Callaway, and it is now 4 tenths faster than Merchant's best time, on that being not listed there, but I can tell you that Merchant right now is P2, and well, they've got a sizable gap of what is the best part of 6 tenths to Hop by comparison. So it is a Squid Gang Racing 1-2 by looks things that's coming, but which other two drivers is going to be on pole is the big question. And well, Bianchi, as he makes his way down to turn number 3 right now, he didn't quite improve on that lap. He's not got long left to improve, but meanwhile Carl Deckard is improving here as number 58 driver, the privateer who made his arrival on the League Zero Formula Series scene as a Long Beach last time. I had a brilliant qualifying session at Long Beach, absolutely delivered and put himself right up there. Things didn't quite go the way he wanted them to in the races, however, but he made a major statement in qualifying, which is he's got a lot of one-lap pace, but it does seem like the Silverstone circuit perhaps not favouring him as much, perhaps not enjoying what is the higher speed nature of this circuit compared to Long Beach, a very different circuit being a street circuit. But then again, the 58 driver, him maybe saving the best till last. We'll have to see with 2.5 minutes left on the clock as he makes his way out of Lovefield and on towards Woodcock Corner. As he goes his way through the right-hander, well, with not too much time left on the clock, you would imagine here now, and also keep an eye, of course, when we hit 15 minutes on that clock in the top centre of your screen, that's it for qualifying. We have no overtime in effect, so therefore our drivers must get the lap in within the 15-minute window. And there's a car parked up there, it's just towed to the pits. That is Ryan Tebow, who's come into the pits. Gabriel Hops also towed into the pits elsewhere out on circuit. So a couple of drivers, I think, now parking up their qualifying sessions, but Deckard right now head down here all the way, and well, he will not squeeze, he may squeeze in another lap. It's going to be very close if he's going to do so, but this might be the last lap he gets, so we're going to stay on board here. And he hasn't really improved in this lap so far. Personal best sector 2, but sectors 1 and 3 have both been found wanting. And as he comes on down here into the club chicane at turn 16 and 17, left into right he goes, and will make his way out that final quarter. What's it going to be here as he comes towards the time in line? Does he improve? He does. He jumps from P10 to P6 at 37.421. It's a good lap from Deckard, but how much higher can he hold on as more drivers are still yet to complete their qualifying sessions, including Arturo Mayorga. Mayorga making his way on down here, the BMR driver. It was heartbreak for BMR in the United States of America last week, and as he makes his way into the last couple of corners and makes his way out now. What's it going to be as he comes to the line with a minute left on the clock? It's not an improvement. He won't get another lap in. Meanwhile, James Turnbull jumps up to P12 of 38.049. A good end to his session. He's still got Jaden Callaway out there right now, and Callaway looking for a bit more magic. He will squeeze this lap in, and well, as he makes his way, weaving and winding his way for the Maggots into Beckett's complex. Behind him a little bit further, that is Jacob Bramley in the Jordan livery machine as he comes on through Maggots into Beckett's as well, riding from left to right. You can see the body roll of the Super Formula machine as he runs a bit wide, and that lap will be invalidated, and Bramley's qualifying session comes to an abrupt halt as he brings it now down towards Stowe Corner. Indeed, that lap will not stand the test of time anymore, but meanwhile Jalen Callaway comes down to the last couple of quarters here, and the Squid Gang Racing driver, well, he is currently on provisional pole, excluding the erroneous time at the top of the time tower for Merchant. How much higher can he go? For Callaway, comes out the final corner, and it's a 36.623, and for Callaway, that I think is going to be it done and dusted as he's crossed the line there. And well, that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and it is Jaden Callaway who has taken pole position, and we'll see that very shortly when we do head to the grid. And joining him on the front row will be his teammate for Squid Gang Racing, Adam Merchant. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our first race of the day in round 5 of the championship here at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. It's Jaden Callaway who has taken pole position with 36.620, in fact, when the time was updated there, and he is joined on the front row of the grid by his teammate Adam Merchant. The gap between the two of them in the end, what was 1.4 tenths when all the times were corrected. Philippe Sarkish starts P3, the Kraken Racing driver once again delivering and really showing himself to be the best of the rest outside of the top two, and in the end only 1.7 tenths off of the front row, and that's the closest margin we've seen in qualifying for some time. He's joined on the second row of the grid by Shahi Zaher for Kraken Kraken Racing, who lines up P4. Another great qualifying performance there from the Cheyenne driver in the number 10, and really coming on strong in the second half of this season. Gabriel Hopp starts P5, the privateer, joined on the third row of the grid by newcomer for today, Frankie Brzezowski, and the privateer making himself felt there against previous debutant from last round. Carl Deckard starts P7, and he's joined on the fourth row of the grid by Leo Delmar, and the Frenchman there leaving it late in qualifying, but the Rodent Junior driver once again outperforming the rest of the Rodent outfit, and Delmar really strong in qualifying and hoping to keep his head down in the race for a great result. Michael Fairchild starts P9 for Zucchi Racing, and he's joined on the fifth row of the grid to complete the top 10 by Antonio Bianchi for Avanti Autosport. Starting P11 is Ryan Thibault, best the rest the Canadian driver, and as he looks to get set and on his journey today, we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do from that row of the grid, and he's joined on the sixth row by James Turnbull. We then have on row at number 7, Gail Rosa starts P13 for Rodent Racing, and Nick Peterson, who starts P14 for Zucchi Racing, with Arturo Mayorga for BMR starting P15, and he's in the company P16 of Xavier Zena for Rodent Jr. Had an absolute rollercoaster ride of a time at Long Beach last time out, and then Jacob Brownlee will start say P17 ahead of Gareth McAllister for Rabbit Racing, with the final full row of the grid going to the combination of Robert Nobles, the privateer, and Rabbit Racing's Jace Mayer. And then starting last but not least on the pit lane, it will be Elliot Court. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen, the lights are going on, and without further ado, Callaway on the right, Merchant on the left, and it's going to be for the first time today. Lights out and away we go here at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. As we can see there in the rear of the picture, Noble's going out wide to gain places, but it's Jaden Callaway who's had the lightning start as they all get underway. A little bit of a tap there as we can see Deckard having to go wide out of turn 1, but it keeps into the inside into turn as they all head down to the braking zone. All the drivers here absolutely nailing the start, it must be said, and we've had a bit of a spin now. I think that's Nick Peterson who's had a bit of a moment. In fact, that might be Elliot Court now that I correct myself, but as our drivers all come towards the end of the opening few corners, Arturo Mayorga there making up some places as well at the start, fend off Jacob Brown who's gained 2, and coming on towards what will be that Wellington straight. Well, things are not going to stay stationary towards the back of the field here, as we're going to see Bramley looking for a move early on, looking up the inside. Meanwhile, is that Robert Nobles into the wall there, coming out of turn number 5? I think it is. We'll have to get a replay of that when we can, but the drivers are all the way around. Mayorga having to go very deep and defensive here as they come out of left field corner and forces Bramley to go a bit wide, but Bramley right now staying right there with him. But meanwhile at the front, it is Jaden Callaway who started on pole and who's breaking away. Adam Merchant is trying to stay with him, and then Philippe Sarkish in P3. You can already see the two Squid Gang racing cars are romping off into the distance. But as the drivers all come down here into the single file formation section of the circuit, it's going to get very tight and testy here. But it looks like most drivers decide to back out of their moves. Ryan Thibault, meanwhile, being the exception here, trying to force the move to open up versus Michael Fairchild. And right now, you can imagine that as Thibault gets his head down here, he'll be hoping that McAllister doesn't look for the move. But I think McAllister is going to go all the way around the outside. Into Stoke Corner they go. Too wide on entry. Will there be too wide on exit? And on exit, it's going to be a lovely move. And Gareth McAllister goes all the way around the outside to take the place of a Thibault. Fantastic move there from McAllister. And right now, absolutely showing why you've got to have the confidence in the car to make these moves stick. But as he makes his way out of turn at number 18, Jace Mayer, meanwhile, also looking for a move on Bramley as they head on to lap number 2. This race is going to be very rapidly indeed as he roars his way in towards the next corner. There's been contact between the two of them, and Bramley didn't expect Mayer to be there on the inside, and the two of them into the gravel, and their race is over as Bramley's rolled up onto the barrier, and that car will be towed to the pits rapidly. But that is going to be a very frustrating end to the race for both drivers there, when it was looking to be materialising into such a great battle between them. But meanwhile, up towards the front, Callaway and Merchant have now got a 1.25 second gap over Sarkish and the Kraken Racing driver, trying to keep what is Hop, his fellow countryman, behind, and then Zuhair, who's lost the place at the start to Hop. And these guys now all chasing each other, I think, focusing on that final podium position as they roar their way on the old start finish straight and in towards Cox Bend for the second time of asking in this race. Carl Deckard, meanwhile, back behind, and Brzezowski right now having made a bit of early progress, with Frankie Brzezowski now falling backwards a little bit, and Deckard's the next man to try and seize the place off him. But it's going to be easier said than done as they come from Maggots into Beckett, and Deckard staying close. Meanwhile, in the rear of the picture, you did see there was McAllister making a bit further progress away from Thibault, and Thibault under pressure from Mayorga. But look at this, it's going to be a free line formation here as they've all got their overtake buttons flashing as they do. Meanwhile, Antonio Bianchi tucking in there, and they're all trying to find a slipstream as they come in towards Stowe, and no change at the moment, but there's a lot of pressure being mounted. And Brzezowski right now, as we look back from the rear of the F&G Racing privateer machine, right now now. The 57 doing everything it can to hold on, is going very deep there into the chicane. Was Decker, Bianchi followed him, and that dirty air draft is no joke as they head on to lap number 3. And as they roar across that timeline, Brzezowski has a bit of breathing room for now before he heads onto this next lap. But how much that breathing room will withstand the test of time? Well, that's the big question as we look back to Antonio Bianchi. And Bianchi, who had a good start, moved up from P10 to P9. He's now looking to have a bit more progress in the race and potentially move into P7 by the end of it. James Turnbull's gained 2 places behind. He's in P10 right now, watching this all play out. And the biggest gainer of them all at the start of this race, Gareth McAllister, 6 places gained. He's up in a P12 and he's encroaching this battle rather rapidly. But speaking of race starts, we need to take a look back at what happened to Nick Peterson at the race start, as well as a couple of other incidents. And here's the replay. We're looking at Nick Peterson coming in towards turn number 1, and in the end went all in for it. And a small tap there with what was the car of none other than Thibaut, just costing him the time. The Zucchi racing driver could have got away with that if only it weren't for that tap that sent him all the way round, but he came in lightning hot and didn't quite work out. And Gal Rosen, meanwhile, losing his rear wing on a separate instant, albeit we don't quite have the story there as to what happened to Gal Rosen, or do we? And in fact, yes, we do, as we take a look back at what happened at the race start. And the Rodent racing driver in score and just lost to his own volition. Cold tyres sent him round and the field scattering around him. Meanwhile, what exactly happened to Robert? Well, Elliott caught him to, oh goodness, being caught, didn't even leave the pit lane before colliding to the back of Rolls' car. Such an unexpected moment for the two of them, and I think they'll talk to each other about that afterwards. And then Robert Nobles, well, he was coming out of turn number 5 here, the privateer, and as he made his way out the left hand, the rear of the car just let go, too much steering lock and cold tyres as he tried to get the power down. The car said no and slid him out onto the runoff area. Well, we're going to return to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do return to the live show, well, this is Antonio Bianchi still pushing on here as much as he possibly can as we're on to lap number 4 of 8. And, well, things now starting to stabilise in this race, it would seem, albeit we had a couple of major shunts, but we're looking back here, and that's Arturo Mayorga dive into the inside of Thibaut, and that might explain why Thibaut is perhaps struggling a little bit. It's the damage he picked up at the start with that contact with Peterson, and well, the gunship-inspired livery machine right now is going to fly for its life, no doubt about that. And if Thibaut's tuned it in, well, I'm not intentioning to keep dropping gunship song names into this one, I could assure you, but roaring on down here, it is going to be an absolute battle on the brakes in towards Brooklands and Luffield, and Arturo Mayorga, well, he's going to have to keep himself absolutely planted to the centre of the road to make sure that Thibaut's not going to be able to find a way through. You can see behind Xavier Zainab also looking for an opportunity here as they roar the way onto the old start finish straight and up towards Cops Bend. But I think for now things might just stay stationary for a brief moment, albeit saying that as they roar their way through the right-hander. Mayorga here right now definitely under pressure, but Zainab now getting closer and closer as we jump on board with the number 12 driver looking from left to right here, can't find his way through. Now he's got to play the patience game, and we can see there, look at Thibaut carrying so much speed into the corner, and well, in the end he's able to get it stopped in time. Oh goodness me, what on earth's happened there? I believe that's Antonio Bianchi. He's off into the gravel, the grass, coming out onto Chapel, but what sent Bianchi that way? We'll have to find out in due order, but that is a surprise and not a welcome one to be certain, particularly if you're an Avanti Autosport fan. But meanwhile, Xavier Zainab closing up out of Stowe Corner, but he just doesn't seem to be able to get close where he needs to, going onto those long straights. But hold up the fault, because we need to take a look at what happened to Antonio Bianchi, and here's the replay. This is only moments to go, and as he made his way there, oh goodness me, it just ran a little bit wide out of Beckett and unsettled the car into Chapo, and in the end almost getting stuck in the gravel trap that gets it spun around in time, but those tyres would have been absolutely covered in gravel and dust, and that would not have been helpful whatsoever. But we return to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and as we do, well, we haven't got long left in this race now, as Zainab's still trying to find his way past Thibaut, with Bianchi closing up behind him little by little. We're into the second half of this race on lap number 5 of 8. Zainab looks up the inside. It's a bold move under braking, but to be fair, that's the way you've got to do it, and Zainab absolutely nails it there as they make the way out of turn number 7 towards 8, and the Rodent junior driver, albeit expecting a bit of compliance from Thibaut, but all the battling in this series will require a little bit of compliance unless you're going to be absolutely doing so. They don't want to pick up any damage, given the fact there are no fast repairs available, and once you pick up damage, if you lose a front wing or a rear wing, that's your race practically over, particularly in the sprint race. Well, right now Xavier Zainab making some early progress, and making even more progress now. He's up to 3 places gained since the start, and well, good on the number 12 driver. But as we look back up towards the front of the field, we're looking to Callaway versus Merchant, and well, this is a lead battle that's moved to 2.5 seconds away from the rest of the chasing pack. Callaway, who made that strong start and started on pole, still being kept honest by teammate Merchant, but remember, with 5 points between the two of them in the championship, and well, we have a drop scoring effect for this season, I do believe, and we've got a season finale in a week's time. Every point now could be absolutely pivotal as they make the way through turns 2 and 3, and coming in towards the first of the 2 hairpins, the back-to-back hairpins here. Callaway right now being caught up to, but then again, the wonderful thing, if you're Jaden Callaway, is the fact you dictate the racing line here at Silverstone. Now that sounds obvious for all motorsport, all circuits, but remember, this is a high downforce circuit, a high speed circuit, and the one thing these Super Formula cars do not like is dirty air over the front of them when you go to high speeds. But speaking of understeer, we thought there would be some for Merchant, but there wasn't. Callaway understeering out of what was Brooklands, and as he brings it back together, runs slightly wide there coming out of left field, and well, Merchant now sees the opportunity here to look around the outside. 2 wide, they're going to go into Cop's corner, and as they make their way to the right hand, and neither driver backs out, but they keep enough space between the two of them, showing you can go 2 wide through there, and Merchant around the outside takes the lead. But as they come down in towards Maggots into Beckett's, well, Merchant will hold the lead for now, but for how long? As they make their way out of the right hand, and the Squid Game racing machines now will absolutely roar and charge their way down the back straight, heading up towards Stowe Corner. We can see here Callaway right now not close enough to really think about a move, and instead having to wait for another opportunity. We've still got 2 more laps after this one, but time is running out, and as they head down in towards the club chicane, well, Merchant right now will know he's got the important part done, which is to get ahead, but now the difficult job still awaits him, and that is, can he keep Callaway behind as they make their way onto lap number 7, fastest lap of the race for Merchant, a 36.896 as he heads up towards turn at number 1. Callaway just behind him, and what a small mistake triggering off that move, and Callaway feeling the pressure in the battle for P3. Well, Philippe Sarkish right now still on in with the run for what is the 3rd place spot on the podium, with Gabriel Hopp and Shahi's ahead directly behind, but as the trio make the way out of the turn 4 hairpin, no change between them at this time, and Zuhair, I think, watching right now, waiting to pounce, but I think all 3 drivers finding their even match with each other here, and therefore it may be now all about who's going to make a mistake, and in the meantime, just playing the long-term patience game, albeit you never know what can happen. We've still got some time to go, and as Shahi Zuhair saying in the YouTube chat there, amazing moves everywhere, and we also say hello there to Spring Flower, saying the French precision in action with regards to Xavier Zainab, and we could see plenty more moves to come before this race is over, and it's not over until that checker flag falls and you cross that start finish line. But right now it does look as though it's all about the top 5. 2 battles inside the top 5 getting ready to unfold, and we have got some grand battles further behind as we see Antonio Bianchi closing up to Xavier Zainab, with Ryan Thibault falling even further back after all of that action between what was Thibault and Zainab earlier on. But Bianchi looking to try and recover a couple more places in preparation for the feature race. He runs a bit wide there coming out of what was Cop's corner, and we'll get away with that a couple of times, but do it too many times, he may find himself end up with a drive-through penalty that he'll need to serve, and if he can't serve it before the end of the race, it's time added on at the end, and a very punishing amount of time at that as Bianchi gets the better run there, coming out of Chapel, right on the back of Zainab as they make the way on down, and well, Bianchi there making it look absolutely dramatic. He can understand why he wants every mile per hour he can get against exactly that as he's up the inside of the Stowe corner, takes the place of Zainab, but meanwhile, at the front of the field, my goodness, almost going too wide there, Philippe Sarkish having to practically make sure that Gabriel Hopp could not look for the move, and Zuhair goes around the outside, and the Kraken Racing teammates working together here to try and make it P3, P4 between them, and Zuhair seeing the opportunity, seeing that Hopp was offline after what was a very near brush between the 2 Brazilian drivers, and the Sri Lankan absolutely making its way on through. We can see they're having exhausted the majority of his overtake button, it's flashing red, which means he's got very little charge left, and as they come down to the braking zone here for what is turn number 6, well right now Zuhair, well he's just absolutely holding on by hair and his breath as they roll their way on through the right-hander and onto the back stretch of what is the old start finish straight they go. Leo Dermot is closing, but not enough. Meanwhile, up towards Cops Bend, Merchant is still ahead of Callaway. The gap between the two of them, 2 tenths here, and Callaway's coming back. It's a late resurgence of Callaway as they make the way from Maggots into Beckett's, and as they roar the way right, left, right. Well, is there going to be anything left for Callaway to try and throw at this? He's giving it everything, but Merchant right now just keeping his head down and is not putting a foot wrong. But here comes comes Callaway. He's winning 2 attempts. Halfway down the straight they go already. He's going to look to the outside. Merchant holds the inside line as they head in towards Stowe corner. Around the outside, Callaway tries to go. They're too wide on exit and he just gets ahead. He just sneaks around the outside. Brilliant move, but Merchant looks back up the inside in turn. He can't quite find it as they head for the club chicane. It's only going to go one way and it's Callaway's way as he heads out the final corner, and Jaden Callaway takes victory in the sprint race at Silverstone ahead of teammate Adam Merchant with a last lap move for victory. Philippe Sarkic holds on to P3 ahead of Shahi Zayed. It's P3, P4 for Kraken Racing. Gabriel Hott P5, Leo Delmar P6, and then we have a 2-second gap to debutant Frankie Brzezowski, who does a fantastic job to finish P7 ahead of James Turnbull, with Michael Fairchild P9, Carl Decker P10, and then it will be Gareth McAllister after the theatrics early on in the race. A bit of a best of rest finish in the end for the Australian driver for Rabbit Racing ahead of Antonio Bianchi, Arturo Mayorga, Xavier Zainav, Ryan Thibault, and then it will be, last but not least, as he heads on through towards the checker flag in P16, albeit last but not least on the lead lap with Nick Peterson finishing a lap down P17. Robert Nobles, who takes 16th place in what has been an absolutely tremendous first race of the day. And goodness me, what a way to end it. Battles everywhere. But in the end, the one battle that mattered most was Jaden Callaway finding his way into the top spot. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, as the crowd are definitely going wild with regards to that one, and we get a bit of breathing room with regards to our races. We do have a 5-minute warm-up period as we get set for race number 2. Well, that gives us a perfect amount of time to take a look at the results from race number 1, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. And, well, after 8 laps of racing in our sprint race of round 5 of the League Zero Inca Salsa Formula Series Season 12, as brought to you on iRacing here at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit today, we saw Jaden Callaway take victory ahead of teammate Adam Merchant for Squid Gang Racing to make it another 1-2. Absolutely in dominant form, and Callaway, who started on pole, he lost out on lap number 6 to Adam Merchant for a small mistake at Brooklands, but on the final lap looked all the way around the outside at Stowe corner, and, well, in the end, the two teammates didn't want to take each other off. They wanted to keep it clean and fair, and Callaway showing full commitment and using every inch of the circuit and a little bit beyond it in order to make the magical move happen. Adam Merchant, in the end, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed not to take a victory, but still he'll be pleased to have absolutely battled all the way to the checker flag for P2, and a sizable 4.1 second gap from the top 2 to Philippe Sarkic P3, with a Kraken Racing driver having to work hard to hold on to P3 and working with teammate Shahi Zuhair, who finished P4 in order to make it a 3-4 for Kraken Racing. Gabriel Hott will be a little bit disappointed to have missed out on P3, looking for that move into turn 1 versus Sarkic, but in the end being made to lose a place to Zuhair in the whole process, but still plenty more to come, and he'll start on pole for our second race of the day. Leo Delmar, P6 of Rodent Jr., ahead of Frankie Brzezowski, who on his debut, bringing home a solid P7, ahead of James Turnbull, and then Michael Fairchild for Zucchi Racing, holding off Carl Decker to complete your top 10. Gareth McAllister was best of SP11 for Rabbit Racing, the best part of a second clear of Antonio Bianchi. The Avanti Autosport driver doing well to recover back to P12, considering how his race went. Head of Arturo Mayorga for BMR. Xavier Zainav finished P14 for Rodent Jr. And then to complete the lead lap finishers, Ryan Thibault P15 and Robert Nobles P16. Outside of the top 16, Nick Peterson at P17 there, a lap down for Zucchi Racing. And then we did see the unfortunate retirement of a few drivers, including, Jace Mayer for Rabbit Racing, Jacob Bramley, also Elliot Court for Blue Passport Motorsport, and Gail Rolls for Rodent Racing, and the two of them coming together on the pit lane exit on the opening lap. Not the way they wanted the race to end. And, well, with that in mind, it does effectively mean that for Elliot Court, well, he'll need a magical result in the second race of the day, but otherwise his championship campaign aspirations to take the championship crown will have come to an end in that sprint race. But still, we've got one more race to come, ladies and gentlemen, and it's just 2 minutes or so away, and it will be our 24-lap feature race. And what a race we've got in store. Given the sprint race, it's absolutely weeded up appetite, no doubt about it, and everyone will be absolutely itching to go racing at once again. An incredible race with absolutely brilliant moves up and down the field. And, well, what awaits us in race number 2 is the question. But we look to Leo Delmar, and he'll be hoping for another solid race, much like what he had in the first race of the day, albeit perhaps he'll be looking to try and chase down that top 5 at this time around. But then again, Anything can happen over the distance, and Delmar will be no stranger to that, but a P6 finish in race number 1, and he'll look to take a couple of steps further. He would love to have finished P5 on start and pole for race number 2, but it wasn't to be. But then again, what is to be, we'll have to wait and see, as we also look to Robert Nobles, and more a frustrating race to the privateer after that early incident on lap number 1, but did well to finish on the lead lap and finish within sight of what was at the trailing pack outside of the top 10. So therefore, there's quite a bit of pace for the number 2, the privateer. But the frustrating part, I suspect, will be he just wasn't allowed to show that pace in the sprint race, given how it all started in that open lap with that spin coming out of turn number 5. But then again, sometimes these things happen. It's about how you bounce back, which defines you as a racing driver. And I'm sure Nobles will be digging in deep right now and thinking to himself, it was just the sprint, the big points, and the big prizes will be in that feature race, which is just around the corner. But as he comes to the end of a warm-up lap, we've only got 40 seconds before we go racing once again, ladies and gentlemen, and that gives us the perfect time to take a sip of water. And we recommend, if you haven't already, make sure you got yourself a bit of liquid refreshment, because we've got plenty more racing to come very shortly. As the drivers getting themselves set and ready to go, the Silverstone circuit has gone through multiple revisions and iterations over the course of its history, as we have mentioned previously, and many argue the question, why was it revised? Well, the reason why this circuit has gone through those revisions is for the purpose of safety, given the fact that racing machines have got faster over the years, and well, the previous version of the Silverstone circuit, the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, that lasted all the way up to 2011, a much faster circuit, but with the speeds of the cars, well, decided to be revamped in order to make it safer for racing. And well, we'll tell you a little bit more about the old layout of the circuit if there's time later on this broadcast, because it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to go racing once again. And as our drivers make the way onto the grid, well, we can't quite walk you down the grid order, but what we can do is we can call out the grid order as they all begin to make their way into position. And lined up on pole position will be none other than top 5 inverted pole sitter Gabriel Hopp. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by Shahi Zuhair, and behind the Kraken Racing drive will be his teammate Philippe Sarkish. And Merchant starts P4 ahead of Jaden Calloway, that's the top 5 inversion complete, and on P6 will be Leo Delmar. On the fourth row of the grid, it'll be Frankie Brzezowski and James Turnbull ahead of what will be your two drivers to complete the top 10 of Michael Fairchild and Carl Deckard. Best of P11 will be Gareth McAllister ahead of Antonio Bianchi, and then we will have Arturo Mayorga, Zaria Zainab on row 7 ahead of Ryan Tebow and Robert Nobles. We'll then have on P17 Nick Peterson ahead of Jace Mayer, with Jacob Bramley P19, P20 going to Elliot Court, and Gail Rolls will start P21 last but not least. As all the drivers are in position on this grid, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for lights to go on for the second time today. But who will be our victor? Could we see a new name at the top of the podium? Without further ado, it is lights out and away we go for the 24-lap feature, and it's a slow start for many a driver, but not for Adam Merchant, who leaps his way into P2 as quickly as that, as Gabriel Hopp finally gets some traction down, and as they make the way in towards turn number 3, well, all the field very quickly comes on down here into the braking zone, and well, it's absolutely scattered as they make the way on through turn number 3 in towards 4, but looking as though most drivers here able to keep their cool and calm as they make the way through, although I'm hearing that Ryan Tebow's been involved in some sort of incident, but otherwise all the drivers through the opening 4 corners. Jacob Bramley there trying to hold around the outside versus Gail Rolls, gets it together, but meanwhile Adam Merchant already taking the lead of this race. As we looked a bit further back, Merchant diving to the inside of Hopp in towards Brooklands and taking the lead of this race as quickly as that, as they make the way now into the second half of the lap. And you see Jaden Calloway's up into P3. Just behind, and Calloway is trying to make sure he stays with Merchant all the way through this race, but roaring the way into Cops Bend. And as they come down, we look a bit further back to Brzezowski, who has gained a little bit of time, albeit in P8 at the moment, and Michael Fairchild in front of James Turnbull, McAllister behind, as we hear the roar of those 4-cylinder engines as they come charging on past us there from Maggots into Beckett's, and as they do, a wonderful roar there, where it be Toyota or Honda powered, and coming out of the Maggots into Beckett's complex, Brzezowski under pressure from Turnbull, as Turnbull getting closer and closer. Brzezowski goes defensive as they cover down the hanger straight, but it's going to be a long look around the outside. Up the rise they go, and will there be a move in from Turnbull? He's going to try and go around the outside. Just about gets it done as Turnbull. Brzezowski backs off there, and in backing off, he's now going to let McAllister look for a move. It's going to be 3 wide on the braking. There's contact. Oh, goodness me, it sends Brzezowski into Turnbull, and it's drama at the club chicane as that is Brzezowski, Turnbull, and I'm not quite sure who tapped him there. I can tell you that Brzezowski's race has come to an abrupt halt and was more battling battling to come here as they head down the start finish straight. 3 wide onto lap number 2, albeit Bianchi backs out of it. 9, the 3 does not go into Abbey, and as they come on out, that's Xavier Zainab and Carl Decker going 2 wide. Meanwhile, just behind them, that's Mayorga in a 3 wide of his own. He's in the middle of it all and being surrounded. It's the reverse Moses manoeuvre. Jace Mann goes up the inside. Meanwhile, we see that Robert Nobles on the outside and Mayorga being absolutely swamped by the seas of SF23. But as they make the way out of the corners and now onto the well into the straight, well, meanwhile, Jacob Bramley says we're not quite done here. He's going to look for a move around the outside here into Brooklands. Meanwhile, looking to the inside, surely not as Garrett rolls. He dives on in the end, can't quite find it, but tries to go for a feint and coming in towards Luffield Bend. Bramley looking all the way around the outside here, and well, he'd be trying to look for a move that will make Eddie Jordan proud as they come out of Luffield on towards Woodcock corner and now up towards Cops Bend, and Bramley's not done as he continues to try and siphon his way past, looking to the inside there into Cops, but it's a dummy as they make the way through, but that's going to cost them a bit of speed by coming off racing line, and that stops the battle for a brief moment. Meanwhile, at the bottom end of the top 10, this is Carl Deckard. He's chasing after Gareth McAllister, albeit he's got the pressure as Xavier Zainab and Antonio Bianchi behind, albeit I think Bianchi's had a very poor run through Maggots, and that's actually cost him a lot of time. That's going to now make it so Xavier Zainab is looking around the outside as they drag race their way down the hanger straight this time. Bianchi using the push to pass button there to make the defensive play, and as they come out of the right hander, well, Bianchi holds on for now, but meanwhile Zainab and Nobles, well, they're all nose to tail here as they head on to the brakes once again. A bit no drama at the chicane this time as they come towards the end of lap number 2, but you can see how close Zainab is and looking for it every which way as meanwhile Jacob Bramley looking around the outside of Mayorga here, and these two not letting each other go, and Bramley really wants this place. He finally gets it as Gale rolls now, looks to go around the outside, and Mayorga in the end has to give him the space. 2 wide into turn 1 they go. Rolls in and goes a little bit wide, but gets the car settled. You can see that Mayorga backing off the throttle slightly to respect the 2 wide nature of the entry of the corner, and Gale Rolls makes the move count, but a lot of compliance there from Arturo Mayorga, and I think Mayorga in doing so there, well, he's been considerate, but now he's got to try and get those places back a little bit later on. But as things finally seem to settle, McAllister under pressure for P9 from Deckard. Deckard looking up the inside in towards Luffield Bend, and well, in fact, it'll be on the outside of Luffield Bend. That was Brooklands, the first corner of the sequence, and McAllister going absolutely defensive all the way from outside to inside, and as he exits out the corner, it's going to be a drag race between the two of them all the way through Woodcote and up towards Cops Bend. Now, if you're McAllister, you want to absolutely dig in here, but I think Deckard's got other ideas. I think he feels as though this is his corner, but McAllister gets it set on the inside, but has Deckard gone for the cutback? He hasn't quite pulled it off, and in fact, he's had to back off, and therefore Gareth McAllister manages to hold on to P9 for now. I say for now because it looks like Carl Deckard, I don't know what they've given him between race 1 and 2 in terms of half-time oranges, if we use the soccer pun, but I can tell you right now that Deckard is absolutely flying out there and looking for another top 10 finish at the minimum, if not chased after a top 5 Guinness relative pace as they head in towards Stowe Corner. And well, as they come down, look at the speed Deckard is carrying into the corner. McAllister, I think right now is just struggling to find the grip, but Deckard is absolutely on fire as they come down into the club chicane. McAllister goes very deep and almost mounts the sausage curve there at turn 17, and there's the proof in the pudding. McAllister is struggling. The car is just not wanting to offer him the grip that others are finding in it, and Deckard's going to look to the inside here as they enter Abbey Corner, and oh goodness me, there's netco contact there between the two and McAllister to the gravel, and that is extremely unfortunate. It takes apart the front right suspension, and Gareth McAllister's race comes to an end. And well, there I can imagine there might be some words to stewards afterwards, as meanwhile in more drama, Gabriel Hopper's gone round. That's on the exit at turn 5. I think that's a repeat of what we saw to Robert Nobles in race number 1 of today, and well, Hopper's gone well and truly round. He drops down the order down to P10, but meanwhile hold the phone on that because we've now got Nobles, the man we only spoke about moments ago. Well, he's having to battle with Xavier Zainab here for P11. He gets it in towards Brooklands, and Zainab going overly deep there, trying to fight it all the way to Luffield Corner. Instead makes a ham sandwich out the corner and completely lose the opportunity to come back, and Jace Mayer looks an opportunity as they head on towards Cops Bend, but charging the way on down. Now we get a bit of a breathing moment. I think we can take a look back at some incidents that happened at the start of the race, including on lap number 1, what happened to Ryan Thibault, and here is the replay. This was Ryan Thibault at the start of the race. Oh, goodness me. And that was contact between himself and Nick Peterson. Nick Peterson, I believe, being given a bit of an elbow there. Was that Gail Rose who's in contact with? I'm not quite sure, but that's what's happened to Ryan Thibault, and Nick Peterson as well then had to come into the pit shortly after due to the damage. But then we take a look at what happened to Frankie Brzezowski, and this was down into the club chicane, and contact with the 25 that had tapped onto the path of Turnbull, and the number 25 being the car of what was Gareth McAllister, and Brzezowski's race in tears, and well, that explains what happened between them. And then only moments ago, well, we take a look back at what happened to Gabriel Hopp on lap number 4, and this is what happened to the P3 at the time driver as he made his way on through the corner. And in fact, well, that's a very odd one. Now, I think he may have picked up suspension damage from a curb, because you could see there the car pulled hard to the left into turn 5. That was not a natural line. I wonder if he's ridden the curb too high, perhaps hit a sausage curb, and the car has just come unstuck from underneath his hands, and that might explain the story. Well, those are the big incidents we've seen, but let's return to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, we've still got plenty more laps to come in this race, no doubt about it. But things are finally settling down into a running order now as we look to Adam Merchant, your race leader still. Jaden Calloway now falling back to 1.2 seconds here as they come into the Maggots into Beckett's complex. And elsewhere, Shahi Zahair in P3, being 3.5 seconds back off of these top two. Well, he's trying to keep Philippe Sarkish behind him, his teammate at this point. But Leo Delmar is closing on them with Hop spin. And well, Hop has got himself back up to speed, it must be said. So perhaps it was just a rare error from Hop, perhaps too much steering lock coming out of what was the loop hairpin and trying to force the car through turn 5 at a very aggressive angle. That might be the story, but whatever's happened to Gabriel Hop, he is back in the race and he's in P9, and he is trying now get back onto the pace to chase down what would be at the podium spot that Zuhair is currently holding on to, with Philippe Sarkish behind and then Leo Delmar. And well, Leo Delmar right now absolutely doing well to hold on to P5. He's got Elliot Court, and keep in mind that Court started from what was P20, and Court really the unsung hero of this race so far, having started from the back of the grid on the 10th row. He's already up to P6. How far can he go here, the Blue Passport Motorsport driver? Can he make a miracle happen here in the United Kingdom on his home soil, or will this be the battle now that keeps him at bay? Well, strategy is going to be a big factor, and the only drivers we've had into the pit so far are drivers who've had to have repair work to the car, have had to retire the car. Nobody has decided to make a pit stop as yet for strategy purposes, so I suspect a lot of drivers here trying to go a bit deeper into the races. Meanwhile, we've had a spin there coming out of the loop hairpin for Jacob Bramley. He's just got the car turned around, but that's going to cost him what will be 2 places to Arturo Mayorga and Gail Rolls. He gets himself back up to speed, so a frustrating moment there for Bramley, but still plenty of racing to go, and I expect he'll get his head down here, look to try and cool the tyres down. They may force him to make a pit stop early in order to put a new set of tyres on, depending on how hard he's overheated them and whether he's put any flat spots into them. But looking back to P3 Zuhair, he's got Philippe Sarkish right behind him as they come out of Beckett and onto Chapel. And will we see a swap of position here between the two Kraken racing drivers? Well, I don't think so at the moment, but you can see there in the rear of the picture the looming threat that is arising as they make the way up towards what will be turn number 15. And that threat being that Delmar and Court are closing little by little, as a bit of a run wide there for Sarkish. And in fact, I think Sarkish making a small error coming out of start. I think he had so much speed, I don't think he knew what to do with it. And in the end, the car just twiddling a little bit on the nose and ended up going wide. But Sarkish definitely enjoying the run of the car so far. And I think right now, if he gets his head down, he could be putting a lot of pressure onto Zuhair. As meanwhile, pressure is building here as we jump aboard with Elliot Court as he goes on to lap 7, chasing after Leo Delmar. And right now, the Briton looking up the inside of the Frenchman goes all in on the brakes there, and well, the door was open, but it wasn't open enough for Delmar just to roll over and step aside. And we can see there Delmar then coming back to the inside of the loop hairpin, and Court making an absolutely brilliant dive, and Delmar saying well, 2 can play that game. And now the game is on as they roar their way down the Wellington straight in towards Brooklands they go. Court looks around the outside as he got the grip, the car snakes away from underneath, he runs wide, looks to rejoin there, but he knows he can't just come charging back onto the circuit. Delmar gives him the space. They make their way 2 wide through Luffield Bend. And Delmar being very respectful there in terms of allowing Court to rejoin and continue the battle after he went deep into the corner. And you can understand what is the frustration for Court after what happened in race 1. Up the inside of Cops he goes, and right now Court moves up into P5, and I think Delmar deciding, you know, if we're going to fight this hard this early on in the race, we're either going to take each other out this race, we're going to destroy our strategies, or at the very least, and what's happened is they've already let a gap open up to Sarkish in P4, and that gap has gone from what was 1.2 seconds all the way up to 3 seconds. So therefore, I think Delmar deciding, look, if you're not going to give in, I'll give in for now, but I'll come back and it's right towards the end of the race if they're still together. But that's the big what-if question as they come out of turn 15 and down the hill they go, down the Vale and in towards the club chicane. And already you can see how Court is starting to extend out that gap, and Delmar is falling a bit further behind as he runs deep into turn 16. But as they come towards the end of lap 7, on towards lap 8 they go, roaring their way underneath the gantry here and up towards turn 1. Meanwhile, further behind as Robert Nobles is into the pit lane. And Noble's in, I suspect, as we do hear the pit entry alarms going, and that's to warn pit crews and anybody in the pit lane that a car is coming down the pit lane. You may have heard those faintly in the background. Nobles is in for the first of the strategic pit stops. Well, Gabriel Hop, meanwhile, on the back here, Michael Fairchild, and the Zucchi Racing driver, after what has been a difficult day today for Nick Peterson and his teammate, and Fairchild right now just trying to pick up the pieces and the points where he can as the third this race comes to a close. We're almost at the end of the sprint distance, but then we've still got another 200% of distance to go here. And Hop right now looking from left to right, trying to stay in the wheel checks of Fairchild as we jump on board here with the number 35 driver. And as he makes his way out of Luffield Bend, the problem for Hop here is the fact that given he's already had one spin today, he won't want to push the tyres too hard. He needs to make these last whenever he wants to try and come into the pits. But then again, if he can't find his way past Fairchild, does he gamble on the undercut strategy, get a fresh set of tyres on, win some absolutely brilliant laps, and they may enable him to leapfrog ahead of Fairchild, perhaps get a bit closer to Delmar, perhaps even ahead of Delmar, but he will of course have that tyre life disadvantage towards the end of the race. And we saw at Long Beach last time out just how powerful the tyre life advantage can be in a pinch, but how it can come back to haunt you on a circuit where there's a lot of overtaking opportunities. At Long Beach there's not, but as they make the way through, Hop's going to have the overspeed here plus the overtake as they look towards the run of Stowe corner. But you can see how Fairchild right now giving the space around the outside, but both drivers using the push to pass. Hop once again going for it here and decides not to as he comes down the Vale and in towards the club chicane, right his way out into club corner and absolutely glued to the rear of Fairchild, and Fairchild being very tactical with how he's defending right now. And that shows you that Michael Fairchild, he doesn't need to be flashy, he just needs to put the car in the right place. Whilst going around the outside, runs almost off the circuit there, going for Abbey, just about keeps it within the track limits. Onto the brakes they go in towards the turn 3 corner, and as they do, Hop's there now to get the inside of loop, but Fairchild's all the way around the outside, so Hop's going to be very, very tightly constrained. But in the end, Fairchild goes a bit too deep, dips 2 wheels towards the grass, and that enables Hop to get the move done. But brilliant battling between these two, and as they roar their way down the Wellington Straight. Is that it, is the question? Well, no, it's not, because Fairchild looks up the inside and Hop turns in, finds Fairchild is there, and will the two of them in the end come to blows? I think they've survived it just about as they both rejoin, but Xavier Zainab comes into the scene of the incident, and the Rodent junior driver takes another 2 places. He's up to P7. Well, the Rodent teams today absolutely enjoying a day where they're just staying out of trouble, enjoying some great moves of their own, particularly this man Xavier Zainab. But on top of that as well, Leo Delmar is P6, Zainab is P7, and well, you can imagine the French outfit right now, they're going to be smiling back in the garage for the simple reason that if they keep this up, what else could come their way? You never know. But as Zainab brings himself up through Maggots into Beckett's, the problem he'll have is that Fairchild is already closed up very rapidly, so the knock between Fairchild and what is Hop, it hasn't done too much to dampen Fairchild's spirits. Hop, meanwhile, I think is a little bit further back. In fact, he's down in P10, so he's trying to catch up to Mayer at this time, and as they all make the way through, we look back to Jace Mayer, the Rabbit Racing driver in the 77, and as he comes on through Stowe corner here, Jace Mayer has had a bit of a quiet race so far. We've got a driver coming into the pits, and that is Xavier Zainab coming into the pits, so he's getting himself out of this fight before he gets caught up in it, and I think that's a very smart move from Xavier Zainab to come in nice and early here, get himself out of an eventual battle with Fairchild. And I think his logic will be that these guys are going to take each other out, alternatively they're going to take a lot of time off each other as they look to try and swap places around each other once again, so I might as well get out of the fight, get myself some clear track position and go hunting up that way. Well, looking out my contact booth window, I can tell you that Zainab's still being serviced at the moment as Deckard looks to the inside there of Gale Rolls, who is a lap down. He's down in P16, so therefore he won't be fighting this based on the rule book, and he'll see the blue flags and he'll need to respect them, and Deckard will try and find a way to pass as quickly as possible, given that Mayorga is only 1.3 seconds up the road, and right now Deckard would love to take on the BMR driver. But heading on down, one is there the Wellington Straight, where Luxo Rolls is right now managing the pace of Deckard, albeit coming into the quarters. That's where the pain is being felt for Carl Deckard, and I think some frustration will be starting to show shortly, if not already, because I think right now he'll feel as though he's a lot faster for these medium speed corners, and therefore he'll just feel as though he's losing a bit of time, as in fact our timing screen is suddenly updated then. Gal Rolls is in fact battling for position with Carl Deckard. Well, there was a little bit of difficulty with his transponder in his car, and well, we do apologise for the confusion there, ladies and gents, because they are fighting for position, and as they come out of Cop's corner, well, you can see immediately 2 wide they go to Maggots, and Deckard's going to try and go around the outside. He just about gets it done, and will Carl Deckard in the end finding a way to be a bit inventive there, and well, goodness me, Gale Rolls absolutely committing to going to the 2 wide all the way through. Brilliant respect shown between the two of them, and Deckard in the end just seemingly having the guts to do what others may only dream to do here at Silverstone today, and find a way to go 2 wide at every and each corner, it would seem. But as they come on down towards the club chicane, you can see they rolls down, take a look back to the inside, and there's a tap between the two of them, and they both go round, and the two cars end up on top of each other, and rolls his car in the end, rolls over and shows the under tray, and will Carl Decker, he reverses into the gravel. Can he get it out the gravel? I think he'll be able to. He will be able to, but Carl Decker, we figure we just had that brilliant battle, and it's all ended up going backwards, and that's going to completely upset all of his momentum. Meanwhile, outside the chaos towards what is the bottom end of the top 10, we can see here at the very front of the top 10 your two leaders, Merchant and Callaway, half a second between the two of them, if that, and right now continue to push each other all the way to distance. But have we just lost Callaway from this race? Surely not. If we have, if Jaden Callaway's having technical issues, in fact, Jaden Callaway has just disappeared to the best part of 4.1 seconds behind. And, well, I'm not quite sure what's happened to Callaway other than he had a little bit of a latency issue. But with that, that gap has opened up massively. And we'll add a Merchant right now. And, well, there must have been an issue with the car and his internet connectivity because Callaway has just suddenly lost so much time for Squid Gang Racing. Meanwhile, in the battle for P3, well, this is getting absolutely as intense as they come. Because Shahi Zuhair, he's got his teammate from Kraken Racing, Philippe Sarkish, behind, and Zuhair's immediately into the pits. I think they're splitting the strategies here, and I think the idea is that Sarkish may be the faster driver to be able to keep caught behind as they drive through the gravel patch that's been spewed onto the circuit by the instant we saw earlier from what was our drivers. But as they make the way down, and that was between Rolls and Deckard, with Philippe Sarkish at the moment making his way on through turns 1 and 2, and as he does so, with Merchant into the pit lane as well, Delmar into the pit lane, so Callaway's your race leader, and this is the battle for P2 on circuit, but was effectively the battle for P3 through to P5 here in the strategy mindset. And as we reach this halfway point of the race, we're on lap number 12 of 24. Well, Sarkish right now absolutely digging in to try and keep caught behind, and I think Elliot Court at this point would love to pick off another driver if he can. As we ride aboard, looks to the inside immediately there, dives all the way, and we saw this earlier in the race, and we see a repeat. Well, he just carries too much speed, brings it back on, and well, takes the position. And Elliot Court for Blue Passport Motorsport definitely exploring every inch of the circuit plus a little bit more. Whether the overtake will stand after the race, we'll have to wait and see. But Philippe Sarkish there tucks him behind immediately, and I think he just feels as though, you know what, I've just got to get back into this, given the fact that Court managed to keep a hold of it. And well, who can blame Court for going for it, to be fair? The Blue Passport Motorsport driver absolutely committing to the moves, and well, the number 23 driver here going all in, given what a nightmare of a sprint race he had. He's going to throw everything at this feature race to just try and see if he can keep his hopes in the championship alive, because his main championship rival now the P3 is none other than Philippe Sarkish, who he's battling with, and I think the full process of chasing after the top two of the championship may have come to a close as of the sprint race. And right now for Court and also Sarkish, this is all about just simply chasing after that third place spot when the season's over. Sarkish into the pit lane, he decides to make his way on in then, so Court will be released into P2 completely for now. Meanwhile, Adam Merchant, who was your race leader when he pitted, he makes his way on past the pit lane entry, so therefore he's going to re-inherit what will be P3. Jaden Callaway stays out, Elliot Court stays out, but everyone else behind him has either pitted or is yet to pit, and therefore Adam Merchant is the leading driver who has taken his mandatory pit stop as he crosses that timeline to go on to lap number 13. Across the line he goes, on to the second half of the race. But how deep will Callaway and Court go before they look to put the fresh set of tyres on? Can they make their tyres last? Can they then put on a fresh set to give them essentially what is a car made for qualifying towards the end of the race, as Philippe Sarkish comes out behind Zuhair in all of this? And meanwhile, Michael Fairchild, who's yet to pit, is in front of the two Kraken Racing drivers. And well, right now Sarkish and Zuhair, they've swapped their places back to how they were prior to the pit stops, and therefore you can imagine that Sarkish will be wanting to try and make a move here if he can, but he won't want to take his teammate off the road, giving us huge points on the board for Kraken Racing, and this could be absolutely pivotal in their hunt for what would be P2 in the Teams Championship when the season is said and done. In the fact they're going into today P2 in the championship ahead of Avanti Autosport, and they'll be wanting a few more points before it all comes to a close. And well, in that team's championship battle, they do also have Blue Passport Motorsport to consider, but Avanti are their main rivals, and Kraken Racing getting ahead of them after Long Beach. They would love to extend that advantage versus the team of Antonio Bianchi, and therefore hold on to that advantage going into that season Vladi in a week's time. Meanwhile, further back, we look to Robert Nobles and Xavier Zainab, and these two, as they make the way on towards what will be Woodcott and then Cops Corner, they're fighting over P10. They've both served their mandatory pit stop already. There's not too many drivers in front of them who have not served that pit stop, beyond Antonio Bianchi and Jacob Bramley, who are within strategic zone, if you will, in terms of that time gap, to be able to come out behind these two drivers if all plays out as expected based on the data we have. But Robert Nobles absolutely committed right now to chase after Zainab as much as he can. as they roar their way onto the hangar straight. Behind them is Jace Mayer. Mayer not too far behind, keeping a distant view in the Rabbit Racing machine. But as they head in towards Stowe Corner here, no change at the moment other than Zainab just holding on by an increased margin of a tenth. It's now up to half a second as they come down the Vale and in towards the club chicane. But left, right they'll go to complete this lap and go on to their 14th turn of the circuit under race conditions this time. And meanwhile, we look back to Sarkisian versus Zuhair, and will these two have swapped places off camera in a recent lap, and in fact recent corners, and the number 4 driver now chasing after what will be that third place podium position. I think when everything is considered here, it's the right thing to do. They may not, as individual drivers, they may have wanted to battle this, but given everything, the team's championship at play for Sarkisian and Zuhair, by making this swap, their biggest concern will be Elliott Court, and for Sarkish, that P3 in what is the Drivers' Championship, and he won't want to have had his teammate hold him up from that, and I think Zuhair will stay with him now and essentially use Sarkish as a pace car, and perhaps they'll battle towards the end of the race should Court's threat not materialise. Alternatively, if they aren't able to find their way into a battle with Elliott Court, if Court comes out ahead of them or is just able to get past them and run off into the distance, I do wonder whether there will be a swap back. Alternatively, whether we'll see the gloves come off between the two teammates here and we'll get a bit of a thriller, but that's for later. We're in the present, and right here and now, coming down the pit lane, your championship leader and race 1 winner, and we're trying to make it a race 2 win as well, as Jaden Calloway as he makes his way into his pit box, and as he does, car up on the jacks, tyres going on. Elliott Court meanwhile staying out a little bit longer in this race, continuing to extend the distance of this race as much as he can. Calloway already leaving his pit box, and well, you would imagine that Calloway is not a threat, or is not threatened by Court, and well, meanwhile Jaden Calloway out the pit lane, but where's Adam Merchant? There he is, and well, those are your 2 effective leaders here, and you can see afterwards that 4-second gap that randomly opened up due to an issue, it would seem that they quickly got fixed on Calloway's car whilst he was out on circuit towards the end, or was their opening stint. Well, Adam Merchant is now only what is 2.8 seconds ahead. So Calloway has made up 1.2 seconds over the course of what has been the remainder of his opening stint, and Calloway has the tyre life advantage versus Merchant. So this will be intriguing to see how it all plays out, because right now in theory you would argue that Calloway will close up to Merchant as the distance goes on, and therefore we could have an absolutely titanic fight between these two before this race is said and done. Meanwhile, more strategy wise, we can see Michael Fairchild in the pit lane, and that car has been static for quite some time. I think with the damage it picked up in an earlier instant, Fairchild's car may be therefore looking to finish this race, but finishing well off of the pace, given the damage that's been picked up, well out of time, as he's down in P13. He's only just leaving the pit lane now, or has been a 47-second stationary time, 46.8 to be exact, and where Fairchild's back out on circuit in P13, he could pick up some more places if we see instance for other drivers, but I think Fairchild's opportunity to finish inside the top 10 may be well and truly done and dusted. Meanwhile, in terms of the bottom end of the top 10, Xavier Zainab here in P8 ahead of Robert Nobles. Jace Mayer is in P10. Jacob Bramley, who decided to go long on his opening stint, much like what was Jaden Calloway, they're both pitted on the same lap. He's come out P11, and he is the best part right now of what is a whole 11 seconds behind this grand battle for P8 through to P10. You won't quite see him in the camera shot there, I don't think. You may briefly see a glimpse of him coming on through at Maggots into Beckett's. There you just saw him briefly in the rear of the picture, but he is trying to catch up to this trio where he can, and Jace Mayer being the back end of the trio, if you will. Meanwhile, Leo Delmar is back into P6 now. All the pit stops are played out with 4-second gap to Antonio Bianchi. So Bianchi's pit stop in the end. With that, Bianchi is yet to take a pit stop as Delmar goes very deep there at turn 3. In towards 4 he goes, and the number 21 driver, an uncharacteristic error. That will cost him a little bit of time in chasing down Zuhair, but he is in a bit of a lonely race right now because the nearest driver to him up the road, it's 6 seconds up the road, that's Shahi Zuhair, and then behind him, if you exclude Bianchi, who's yet to take his pit stop, you would have to consider Xavier Zainab, who is Delmar's teammate for Rodent Jr. And well, Zainab is 14.5 seconds behind, and therefore Delmar right now looking to try and make it back-to-back 6th place finishes, perhaps even the top 5 if we do see any retirements to the top 5 or any major incidents or unexpected circumstances to occur. But right now, as we do settle into the end of the second third of this race, well, the battles have calmed down for a brief moment, but the big battle out circuit still is the prospect of Court versus Sarkish and Zuhair. But Elliott Elliot Court makes his way past my commentary booth window. Another lap, another personal best for Court, a 36.246. Meanwhile, for Sarkish and Zuhair, we'll see what laps they deliver this time around as they come towards the end of what is their 16th lap of the circuit. But I would imagine that Court right now has got his head down and is just trying to pump in lap after lap in order to leapfrog Kraken Racing's pair of drivers once that pit stop is complete. But as we see Sarkish coming towards the line here, what's it going to be in terms of respective times? Well, for Court, it was, of course, a 36.25, so the nearest 100th. Meanwhile, for Sarkish, a 36.895, Zuhair, a 36.872. It's not enough. If anything, Court right now is going to jump ahead of these two through the pit stops once he does serve it, if things do go to plan in the pits, and Elliot Court will be making his way to P3, which is a great recovery given the way things that happened in what was the sprint race and subsequently how he's had to come from the back of the field in the feature. But looking from the battle for effective, what we believe is P4, back to a battle on circuit, which we know is, at the moment at least for P8, it's Zainab versus Nobles, and Robert Nobles, who we jump on board with as he makes his way through turn number 3. Well, right now, as he comes out of Village and in towards the loop, the number 2 driver noting that Zainab sliding about in the exit of the turn 4 hairpin, trying to get the power down, but no traction awaiting him. Well, Nobles is keeping it calm, cool and collected, and that's exactly what you've got to do to try and get under the skin of your rival as he comes into Brooklands and then Luffield. And Will Court is into the pit lane as I look out my commentary booth window. We will look to that very shortly, but Nobles right now looking to get the better run out of Luffield Bend. A little bit of battling with the steering wheel there for both drivers, but as they head onto the start-finish line straight, the old start-finish line straight and in towards Cops Corner, the gap is gradually coming down and that battle could be imminent. Meanwhile, we look back to Court then in the pit lane as we look to the blimp camera. Car stationary at the moment. Where is Adam Merchant? Where is Jaden Callaway? Well, I believe you look at the bottom, there is Merchant. We'll shortly see Callaway come on through the picture as well, unless there's been a mistake or an incident for Callaway. No, there he is. But where is Philippe Sarkish? Where is Shahi Zahair? And the answer is they are all the way back at the start-finish line and making their way into Abbey Corner at the moment. So Elliot Court, by staying out longer and just delivering lap after lap, he, in the end, has leapfrogged ahead of the Kraken Racing pair, and he has put what is 7 seconds of lap time ahead of these two. And Elliot Court right now is absolutely flying out. Then he's only what is 4.2 seconds over the back of Callaway. So say it's not so, Elliot Court could yet potentially ruin what would be back-to-back 1-2s for none other than the Squid Game Racing outfit if he's able to pull it off. And given the fact that he's on lap number 18 with a fresh set of tyres on a car that's low on fuel at this point, you would have to imagine the number 23 driver Blue Passport Motorsport, he has now got an open and a blank checkbook here to just write fastest lap after fastest lap if he can find the pace. But of course the thing is, when you're going to be trying to go for fastest lap after fastest lap, there's only so much energy you can expend before mistakes start to creep in. But how strong can Elliot Court be here in chasing down at Jaden Callaway, at least towards the end of this race? He's set himself up for the pursuit, but will that pursuit pay off, or will it come back to say it's not enough time, or will there be an error on the way? We're not going to put the commentator's curse on him, but we'll wait to see what the number 23 driver can do here as he now gives pursuit towards the end of this race. Meanwhile, looking back to Nobles, he was chasing after Zainab only moments to go for P8, and he's still giving that chase. They come out of Cops Corner, and look at how close they are as Jace Mayer is now only 1.8 seconds off this. A second has been gained by Mayer over the last 3 laps. Nobles absolutely glued to the bag of what is none other than Zainab as they roll off the corners, and as they come down the hanger straight this time, will Nobles putting himself in the tow. There could be an opportunity here. Will Zainab put the car in the middle of the road? He doesn't. He does expect it to come. Nobles dives up the inside, but Zainab knows where the grip is on that outside line, and in the end, Nobles has to back off there through fear of tapping the rear right tyre, but he switches back to the inside. Nobles goes all in on the brakes, and my goodness, Robert Nobles, there springs a surprise, but it's a surprise too, as in the end, Zainab taps the rear Nobles' car. The rear wing comes off, and it's disaster in the end as he makes his way across the sausage curb at turn 18, and Robert Nobles' race comes to an abrupt halt, and I'm not quite sure what exactly happened there beyond Zainab tapping the rear Nobles' car. We'll get a replay of that shortly, but one unexpected turn, and Jace Mayer sees 2 places for the price of 1 instant suddenly just come his way, and the Rabbit Racing driver, I think he's not going to believe his fortunes right now, thinking if they keep going on like this, surely I'm going to be able for a top 5 by the end of the race. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out what happened. In fact, we've also had an incident for Elliot Court off camera, but here's the replays of everything starting with what happened between Zaria Zainab and Robert Nobles, and here we go after that brilliant battle only moments ago, and it was coming down into the braking zone here. for what was the club chicane. Side by side they went, and on the exit, I think Zainab just gets a little bit too close there on turning into turn 70. I think trying to carry a bit more speed in the pursuit of Nobles, and taps the rear of Nobles' car, and that was the story. Meanwhile, elsewhere on circuit at the same time, this was Elliott Court, well, in fact, a little bit what was earlier on from that, making his way out of the club chicane, and you could see there, you may notice the rear of the car was looking very loose coming out of turn 17 as he made his way into club corner, and Court in the end being caught out by that, and as he brought it back together, he's fallen back behind the Kraken Racing pair as he's rejoined the race in action. Well, goodness me, what a turn, and right now Elliott Court has made his job even harder as we return to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen. But as we do, well, here is Jace Mayer, and then let's look to Elliott Court here as he brings himself on around, through turn number 5 and up towards turn 6. He roars his way down the Wellington straight, but he's only got 5 laps to go, including this one. And, well, the Blue Passport Motorsport driver at this point, you would imagine that he's got to try and temper himself here, because the one problem you can have as a driver at this point is after making an error like that when you've been pushing so hard, is you can start to really wind yourself up, and you can start to do what they refer to as driving angry or let the red mist descend. He'll want to finish on that 3rd place spot at the podium. He knows he's got to if he wants to be leading, or at least on an equal balance versus Philippe Sarkic in the battle for P3 in the championship going into next week's season finale at Interlagos. But right now, we talked about at the start of this broadcast the fact that the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit seems to have a way of making life difficult for home circuit drivers, for British drivers, and we've seen that here for the Briton as he powers his way upwards towards the two in front. But meanwhile, there's a bit of fighting here. Zuhair and Sarkic battling each other, and Zuhair gets ahead. Now, is this a case whereby Zuhair is going to try and run off into the distance, and in fact Court's into the pit lane? Is that for a drive-through penalty for instant points being accrued? But Court comes on down, and if so, well, that is going to make his day go from good to bad to disastrous. And Elliott Court right now will be absolutely fuming with the way this day is coming to a close after not even making it 100 metres out of the pit lane in the sprint before he ended up in an instant. And now in this feature race, it's all falling apart at club corner and in the pit lane. I believe it is a drive-through penalty he's serving at the moment because he's not coming to a standstill by his pit box. He's made his way past, and for Elliott Court, that puts him down into P7, and it means that Zuhair and Sarkic P3, P4, and Leo Del Mar is now on course for P5, and the Rodent Junior driver, well, he's going to be absolutely ecstatic right now if he can bring home this result, given the fact it has been quite some time since we've seen him bring home a top 5. He's only had 1 top 5 this season, and well, he's going to look to try and make it his 2nd top 5 of the season here today. And the Rodent Junior driver has not put a foot wrong. He's not been on the pace of the leaders, but to be fair at the same time, sometimes the magical results are not because you're race winner, but it's because you're just able to grind out a result that nobody else was able to find on the day. And Leo Del Mar is exactly that. The consistency of this man has been absolutely incredible so far. But as he comes in towards Maggots into Beckett, he'll know that he can't take his foot off the gas. He's still got 2.5 laps to go as Antonio Bianchi, who's in at P6, well, he's got to come into the pits at the end of this lap. If he doesn't, there's either a pit stop that hasn't been registered on our timing screens, or alternatively, he'll be getting an angry wrangling from the steward's room after the race, given the fact he needs to serve the pit stop by the end of lap number 21. He's got to have served the pit stops with 3 laps remaining in the race, and you see Elliott Court behind. So Court will move back into P6, but that's all he's going to gain. And the big intrigue question will be, where's Bianchi going to fit into this? But Bianchi stays out there. Well, unless I'm mistaken, he's got to serve that pit stop, and well, if he doesn't, well, it's going to be a post-race penalty applied, so therefore the Avanti Autosport driver will go on a little bit further. I'm just going to double check in the notebook here with regards to the rules, ladies and gentlemen, make sure I'm not losing it, but I can tell you he's not allowed to, well, according to the rule, but not allowed to take the pit stop on the final 3 laps of the race. So unless we've missed the pit stop, which to be fair could have happened, we've had a few glitches with our timing tower today, and well, it does seem as though Silverstone does love to have some glitches with our timing tower. It could be that Bianchi right now will finish P6 of the circuit, but may have the rulebook thrown at him after the racing. But as he powers his way down, for now, he'll be looking to hold on to P6, and will all the battles come at 2. What is a bit of a calm right now as he makes his way on around, but as the driver roars his way on through, Court's not going to let him go, and I think Court's going to do everything in his power to try and close up before all is said and done in this race, but roaring his way up towards what will be comp spend in short order. Well, the drivers right now absolutely giving it everything before the finish, and Court especially, he's already got that gap to Bianchi down to 2 seconds, and well, heading out of the right hand and onward towards what will be Maggots into Beckett's here. Court is absolutely flying as we've still got Michael Fairchild in the pit lane. They're still trying to repair the car, and well, in fact, the car's just making its way down pit lane at this point. My apologies. I think that's a drive-through penalty that Fairchild is serving. He's made his way past his pit box, unless I'm mistaken. In fact, he's back out. So Fairchild into the pit lane for a drive-through penalty. That's for instant points off camera. And well, Court is closing very quickly indeed as he makes his way on through Stowe. But meanwhile, Jacob Bramley has had a spin there coming out of Luffield Bend. And, well, that's a surprise and not a welcome one to be certain for the 53 driver in the Jordan livery machine. And as he brings it back together, he's dropped down to P10. And, well, he's the last of the drivers on the lead lap with Arturo Mayorga making his way ahead. And, well, therefore, now we've only got 10 cars on the lead lap. And all those battles have spaced out to a degree. Albeit Antonio Bianchi is going to be under pressure soon from Court. Albeit we've got this lap plus one more for them to complete, and I would imagine that if Elliott Court's not on the rear of Bianchi by the end of this lap, he most certainly will be by the time they get to Cox Bend on the final lap, and Bianchi will have to dig in all the way to the finish. As we do say hello there to James BGP2 in the YouTube chat, and thank you for the compliment there, James. Glad to hear you enjoyed the broadcast, and we're saying that Silverstone is looking in fine form and sunny for once. Indeed, the Silverstone circuit does seem to love attracting the rain and changeable conditions in the United Kingdom, and we also do say hello to Antonio Bianchi there in the YouTube chat as well. Tune in right now as the driver in question makes his way towards the end of what is the old start for the straight and up towards Cops Corner, but you can see there Court is looming ever larger. But meanwhile, looking back to the front of the field, and it is a 5.5 second gap that Adam Merchant takes into the final lap of the racing here today as he makes his way out of the club chicane and in towards Club Corner. One more lap to go here for Adam Merchant, and what a personal best of 35.669. Callaway meanwhile crossing that timeline on a 36.240, and I imagine at this point with the distance left, well, for Merchant and Callaway it is now all about just getting the cars home, and it's a 1-2, but it won't be a double victory today for Callaway, and that will set us up for an absolutely brilliant championship finale battle at Interlagos between the two teammates, with Callaway being the defending champion, and I believe with the way results are going here, he will have a slight edge going into the final race of the season, only just by a small number of points, but every point will matter, and Merchant will look to do everything he can to try and take the points back and take victory and prevent Callaway from making it back-to-back titles. Meanwhile, the battle between Court and Bianchi was a come down in towards where it's turns 3 and 4. The Blue Passport Motorsport driver, he's close, but is he close enough here to think about a move as we do ride aboard the nose cone on what is the number 23. We'll make it his way out, not quite at the moment. You can see Bianchi there pulling to the inside line, trying to break the tyre distance, but we'll switch back to the race line. He'll be allowed to do that once at a distance, but as the drivers get closer to each other, he won't be allowed to do it as frequently due to dangerous driving. But they're knowing exactly how to play the rule book as they make the way of through turn number 7. And as they come through the right-hander, Court right now, close, but not close enough. A little bit of gravel there being kicked up as they roar their way up towards Cops Corner, but it's a long way to go, and he doesn't look to be close enough to look for a move yet into Cops Bend. But meanwhile, we must look back towards the front of the field, ladies and gents, because as this man makes his way through the final 3 corners, the checker flag will await him, and whilst it was Callaway who took victory in the sprint, it is Adam Merchant who is victorious in the feature and will set us up for a practically dead-even season finale between the two teammates, as it's a 1-2 for Squid Game Racing. Callaway brings home P2 with the fastest lap of the race right at the end, and then Shahi Zuhair, well, it's an absolute brilliant drive for the Kraken Racing driver, and after the swap between himself and Sarkic early on the race, they swapped back, and the Sri Lankan driver will take the final spot on the overall podium ahead of Philippe Sarkic, P4, and the Kraken Racing driver, the team make it 3-4 once again after race number 1 with that brilliant result as well. Leo Del Mar takes his second top 5 of the season for Rodent Jr. What a drive, and then Antonio Bianchi will just hold on to P6 by what is 1.5 tenths over Elliott Court P7. Jace Mayer will come on down shortly to finish his race of Rabbit Racing in what has been a race where he's seen it all flash in front of his eyes in terms of the instance and everything in between. But for Jace Mayer, I can tell you one thing, he's going to take a P8 today, and I think the grin on his face is not going to leave it any time soon. He comes home 8th place for a personal best lap right to the end, and then we've got a little bit of time before BMR's Arturo Mayorga will come on home for a top 10 finish. They're rare for BMR, but when they happen, the team get absolutely excited in the Dak Daniels sponsored car, and as he comes on through the final corner, it's a P9 for the 55 driver Arturo Mayorga, and then Jacob Bramley will complete your overall top 10 and be the last of the lead lap finishers in the 53, the privateer machine from Team Jordan. And we have a lap down in the end, but still credit where it's due. Michael Fairchild, P11, getting the car to the end And Shahi Zaher celebrated here with that podium. He's absolutely ecstatic about it. He's had a good number of top fives, and we'll add in another podium to his collection is number 10 driver. But that completes our race. There's Leo Domar also doing some burnouts there on the exit of Luffield Corner to celebrate what has been a solid top 5 performance and not a mistake made here today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, as our drivers head round towards the pit lane, well, let's take a look at those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. And well, we look to the scenic view, and here are said results. So an incredible second race to wrap up proceedings at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit in round number 5 of season 12 of the Inca Salsa Formula Series, brought to you by League Zero on the iRacing simulation platform. And as we saw Adam Merchant taking victory and leading home the 1-2 for Squid Gang Racing, the inversion of how they finished in race number 1, but more points on the table, and Merchant bringing home the mother haul ahead of Jaden Callaway's P2, and it sets us up for a nail-biting season finale between the two of them. Shahi Zaher takes P3 for Kraken Racing at the final spot of the podium, and he'll be absolutely ecstatic with that one, ahead of teammate Philippe Sarkish. And well, Philippe Sarkish now put himself back in the fighting position for P3 in the championship come the end of the season at Interlagos, and also keep in mind he will take a points advantage into that final round ahead of Elliott Court. Leon Delmar, P5 there for Rodent Jr. Those results don't come often top 5s, but when they do, for the Frenchman, they're well earned, and that could be said of today, if not even more so. With Antonio Bianchi holding on to P6 the end for Avanti Autosport against a very frustrated and unfortunate Elliott Court today. The Blue Passport Motorsport driver knowing that his fight for the championship crown is now over, and instead he's going to have all the pressure on him in the season finale to try and take back P3 versus Philippe Sarkish. He took P7 ahead of Jace Mayer for Rabbit Racing, and then Arturo Muriel got P9 for BMR ahead of Jacob Bramley, who completed the top 10. Behind the privateer, a lap down, it was Zucchi Race's Michael Fairchild, best of the rest, the last of our finishers, and then we had our retirees that consist of Xavier Zainav, Robert Nobles, Carl Deckard, Gabriel Hopp, Gail Rolls, Gareth McAllister, Frankie Brzezowski, who had a great debut sprint race, no doubt about it, and was looking good in the feature race, but an unfortunate incident between himself and Xavier Zainav bringing his race to an unfortunate timing in terms of the end. And well, we also saw further on down there in the retiree pool, James Turnbull, Nick Peterson and Ryan Tebow. 21 starters, ladies and gentlemen, and in the end, 11 finishers, of which 10 on the lead lap. But what a pair of races here today at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and indeed the home of British Motorsport absolutely delivering. But with that in mind, it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now absolutely itching to be on the grid for a future season of the League Zero Formula Series brought to you by Inca Salsa, or if you want to know a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes and everything in between, well, of course, we do recommend you check out the official League Zero website, which has an absolute plethora of information, and that may be found at www.leaguezero.net. But if you don't want to go to the website, perhaps you're more of a sociable person and you want to go to the beating heart of the series, well, we do recommend you join the official League Zero Discord. Invite link available on screen there. And if you do have any questions regarding the series or how you can be on the grid, it's the #1 place to go to for everything when it comes to talking to the staff, the admin members, and the drivers who make up the series. Well, we'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors that do include Critical Video, MSR Performance Engineering, and also Team Goon Squad. And who could we forget but our title sponsor for this season, Inca Salsa. And if you are a fan of salsa and are looking to taste the very best, then look no further than Inca Salsa. Containing only the freshest ingredients, no gluten and no added sugar, just like the finest authentic salsa should. Once you've had a taste of the incredible family recipe salsa from Julio Espino, you will never want to taste any of the rest from the competition. To put yourself in pole position to enjoy the very best salsa you will ever have, head to Inca Salsa's official website, that is incasalsa.com today. The website once again, incasalsa.com. But now, ladies and gentlemen, attentions will turn to our season finale, because in a week's time, round 6 of 6 will play out, and we're better to bring the curtain down of the ultimate title-decided circuit. It's none other than the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, but we all know and love it and refer to it as Interlagos. The title will be decided in Brazil next week, and it will be between the Squid Gang Racing teammates. In one corner, Jaden Callaway, in the other, Adam Merchant, and the battle for P3 between Elliott Court and Philippe Sarkish. Could it be the one that Felipe Sarkic takes home on home soil, or could we see a late twist in the towel? With all that and more, the racing will occur on what will be Thursday the 19th of December 2024, but come join us as if it were live on Saturday the 21st of December 2024 as we bring Season 12 to a close. Until then, we have been League Zero. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.